For this video, we're working on a three number sum. So let's say we're given an array. So for example, we're given an array of marks. And in this array, we have different marks out of 100. Say it's 45%, 60, 77, 88. I'm just putting in random numbers like previous problems. 45, let's say 46, 20, 26, 65, or 64, 40. So then I decide to give you a question. Say, let's say I ask you find three integers within this array that will sum up to a certain target, and I give you a target sum of, let me say target. So we give you a target mark of say 126, right? So my question is, within this array, find three marks that will sum up to this target. Let me just call this target X. This is how we'll type it out throughout our code. So the question is, find three integers that sum up to the given target. The given target X, right? And here we know that X is 126, right? So to find three numbers that sum up to 126 in this array, here we have 45, 60, 77, 46, 80. So the obvious one is 60, 40 plus 26, right? We have 60, we have 40, we have 26, right? So our function should be able to traverse through this array and find these three numbers and confirm that, of course, it's true. We have three numbers that sum up to 126. And the best thing is actually to output those numbers. Output 60, 26, and 40, right? So let me say we have an array that doesn't have any number that sum to 126, then it should return false. Perfect. So we'll write our function. Let's say our function is, we'll call it 3. Let's just call it 3 marks. 3 marks sum, right? 3 marks sum. No, it looks funny. I'll just call it 3 marks. I'll just say mark with one S. 3 mark sum. Perfect. So our input will be on our array, the given array marks, and the target X. So the first thing we'll do is let's just initialize the length of the entire array. We'll just follow the same steps we did in the last problem. The length of the array, we write it as length marks. So this will be our index from 0 to the last one, which is n. So what we'll do for this problem is we'll traverse through this array for the first time and find the first integer, which is 60, and then traverse for the second time and find our second integer, which is 60, which is 26, and then traverse again and find our last one, 40, right? Every time we go through this, we'll add 1 to our index, the index we're initially at, the index we initially started, and then deduct 1 from the length of the array so that we don't repeat numbers, right? I think you'll see it clearly when I start writing the code. So I'll write my first for loop. So remember, we say traverse for the first time, so we'll say for I in range. So we're starting from 0, and because we're looking for three numbers, we'll go from n minus 1, n minus 2, right? So that we get our three numbers in range 0. From 0, we're starting from 0 to n minus 2, right? So this will be our first for loop. Then we write on our second for loop for j. We'll just use a different letter for j in range. So now because we have I, our first integer will start from I, but then we don't want to start with I, because I, we already have it for the first for loop. Let's go to the next number for I plus 1, right? N. And now we go into our second number, so we'll say n minus 1. Perfect. Then we'll go to our third for loop, and we'll just use another letter K for K in range. And because we have I, we can say I plus 2, or we can still say J plus 1. So we follow a similar trend up to n, because now we're on the last one, right? Now that we have our four loops, or 3 for loops, what we can do now is say, so if the marks at I, J, and K, if all the marks at I, J, at index I, index J, and index K are equals to the target sum, if marks at I and marks at J, and say marks at K, if all those marks are equals to the target sum, remember we're given a target sum as X, if all those marks are equals to the target sum, then we know that we can print these values, right? Which is our output. So we can print, let me actually print it this way, 3 marks. There's 3 marks. There's 3 marks we're looking for. These 3 marks are, insert comma. So the first one will be marks I. So the first one is marks I, comma. Then let's say we add a comma in our output. So let's do this. And the second one will be marks J. Then we have marks IJK, marks K, right? So this will print out all the 3 marks we have at index I, index J, and index K. Perfect. So now that we have our output of marks, we can also return true and get out of our for loops and return false. Return false, right? So our function is a 3-mark sum, because we're looking for 3 marks in our array. So to find this 3 marks, our input will be marks and our target X. Target is the sum of the 3 numbers. So we start with the length of the array, which is equals to n. N is equals to length of the array. Then we write our first for loop, which is for I in range 0 to n minus 1. Remember, n is length of the array, so we say length of the array minus 1, because we're looking for 3 integers. If we're looking for 2 integers, we'd say minus 2, but then we wouldn't need 3 for loops. And then our second for loop, we say for j in range I plus 1, because we already have the index I. Now we go to the next one, n minus 1. And then k, we say j plus 1 up to n. Perfect. So that means we keep shifting through our array until we have all the 3 numbers we need. And if we have these 3 numbers at index I, j, and k, and all of them, summing all these integers, we get x, we can print these numbers and return true. 3 marks are mark I, comma, mark j, comma, marks k, right? And return true. I think this should be okay. Perfect. So to run this, we'll insert our array here, copy. I'm just going to copy the same array and our target, then put down a print statement just to print our solution. So we'll call our function. I'll copy the function with the input, paste, right? Where did I miss? me do this. Shouldn't have made a mistake. I just named it a target. We named it as X, remember? So now we have it as target. We should get our output because it's true. So now let's do this. Let's see if without 40, do we still have numbers that sum up to 126? I'm not sure. Let me check. True. So we have 60, 46, and 20. Okay, we still have them. So let's check again with let me make this 27 and check if we'll still have them or it'll return false. So now we have 60, 26, 46, and 20. Okay, let me change 46. Where's that? 46. Make it 47. False. Perfect. So that means our code is running properly now.